everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. My name is Ross Kukulinski. I'm the VP of Product here at Kong, broadly responsible for Connect. I've been here for almost 4 years, so some of you I think have been on Connect for a while. Some of you are new faces, so welcome. Today we're going to dig into API and AI monetization. Certainly, this is one way of we've touched on a bunch of this in the keynotes yesterday and keynotes again today. I'm excited to have Peter with me today. Peter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, this is Peter. I am the co-founder of OpenMeter, and since joining Kong, I am the product manager of the Kong metering and billing product. And thank you for everyone to choosing us in this especially cold room. We appreciate it.
So game plan for today. I'm going to give a little context on sort of general market context that we've been seeing at Kong and the customer pain that we've been hearing from customers over the last 18 months or so. And another way of viewing this is, why did Kong buy OpenMeter? And so I'm going to help give a little bit of context into that. Peter's going to share some of the origin story of how OpenMeter came to exist and some of those core sort of both customer and technology capabilities there. I'll introduce you again briefly to the new Connect metering and billing product that's coming. And then Peter's going to do a much more in-depth demo. It starts high level with kind of what you saw yesterday, but we're going to dig much more into that. Okay, so high level. There's a number of trends that we've been sort of observing. And I'll note, API monetization has been a thing since, I don't know, 2015, 2016. Like, it's been a thing. We haven't had it natively in Kong. We've had most of our customers who do need to do API monetization have done so through the extensibility mechanisms that we have Kong Gateway. We have custom plugins, we have other extensibility mechanisms, but it never really was something that ever stopped a customer from using Kong. They already had some system, and it was more about integrations. And so it was never something that we said, okay, we have to build a traditional API monetization engine. But the rise of AI changed the game. Fundamentally, those AI applications, the cost associated with them changes the game. An API call that is actually sending a bunch of tokens, that is not a fraction of a penny anymore. That can be a very, very expensive API call. So as organizations are either looking to enable developers with tools like Copilot, you want to understand usage patterns internally as you experiment with different Copilots for different development environments, you need to understand the cost of those things. But also, as you start thinking about how do you offer APIs to other teams inside your organization, or actually exposing those capabilities outside of your organization, understanding what your cost is and also what the value that customer is getting really, really changed the game for us. And so those AI workloads are inherently usage-based. How much you use drives how much cost there is, and I'm a business person, how much value a customer is going to get out of that. The other thing that we've observed is changes in how companies are even pricing and valuing their products. Obviously, you have infrastructure cloud providers like AWS and Snowflake and GCP, but it's all usage billing. That's everything they do, which makes sense. It's a utility. But for higher level value SaaS products that are not core infrastructure, usually we've been seeing seat-based pricing. How many users do you have logging in? That seat-based mechanism doesn't really capture the value that customers are getting out of this. And so we're seeing more and more organizations moving towards success-based pricing or an outcome-based pricing. So think about a customer support agent. It's not how many tickets did I answer. I need to answer a ticket. I need to have responded in a certain amount of time. The customer satisfaction score for that needed to be a CSAT of 9+, and the total session needed to be under a certain amount of time. If those three or four things happen, then it's a successful outcome, and I'll charge my customer. I can charge them a lot of money for that one. Those systems are inherently automated. They're event-driven, and they're API-driven. So we need a way to be able to meter and understand all of those different patterns and bring that data together. We also know customers obviously need to understand the costs and COGS of AI. It's very vastly different than API, just pure API traffic. And also looking at the sort of return of investment on AI. And I think this is the one that sort of rings true for the most for me as sort of the product person. Like, I'm building Connect. I worry about pricing and packaging for that product and the set of products we deliver through there. I think about it for both our enterprise customers in that segment, as well as small startups and pay-as-you-go model and product-led sales. I think about the business of those things. PMs like me or executives and finance teams, they need the ability to experiment. They need the ability to change pricing models quickly and efficiently, especially because LLM pricing is changing all the time. The systems you're depending on change on all the time. So you need those tools to sort of be decoupled. You don't want to ask the engineering team, all right, I got this great pricing idea. Can we go change everything? I've had engineers throw things at me when I come and ask for those changes. So executives want the ability to be able to iterate on that pricing, have it be decoupled from the underlying metering and billing system. And then ultimately, execs, we want to know that we're getting our money's worth. And for many of our customers at Kong, you already have a whole massive ecosystem of other technologies that are in your systems. It's not just Kong. You have what I call heritage applications or heritage gateways. These are the things that maybe run your business today. I don't like to call them legacy because that seems too demeaning. Heritage, it's what you inherited. They're the things that make you money, but they're maybe not necessarily things that you understand well or things that you love or want to keep having. So our customers are struggling with this, absolutely struggling with this with every part of the technology stack, the way from low-level connectivity runtimes, things like service mesh and ingress, and obviously different flavors of gateway. You have all of the different applications, things like how do you onboard developers, how do you do observability, how do you do all of those things. So this is the problem our customers struggle with, and this is why we created Konnect. We created Konnect to be that universal connectivity platform for your AI and your AI API applications. And we think about Konnect as being a flexible platform with Lego blocks of products you can choose from. Choose the products and capabilities that meet the needs of your business today, and know that those capabilities will grow over time, and when they either solve your problem or you now have that problem, they're ready for you. And for us, metering and billing was one of those gaps that we've had. We identified it, and we're very, very excited to introduce a new capability on top of that Konnect platform to tackle those types of problems. So we're really, really excited to bring OpenMeter in. And Peter, I think it would be really helpful maybe for this audience who maybe are not as familiar with sort of the origins of OpenMeter. Like, how did you create OpenMeter? What's your background? How did you get here?
Yeah, let's jump back in time, which, now being on the Kong API Summit, where everything is so branded, so nice, like coming from the startup background, easy to forget how it started because it didn't start this glamorous, what you see here. The story started in 2022, December. My co-founder, András, is, by the way, sitting there. It's all started together. Basically, both of us' background is observability. We built another company like 12 years ago that was basically Datadog for Node.js applications. That was the time when microservices Node.js was booming, and we built an observability solution for that. Then I kind of carried that over. I was working at Netflix, some observability, some API solutions, and eventually I was working at Stripe on internal chargeback use cases. Stripe is a low-margin business. Chargeback is super important for them to understand how infrastructure part of the whole pricing strategy and even selling strategy. And I was really frustrated about that coming from observability background. By today's standards, we have standardization for tracing, for metrics, for logging, open telemetry, all those stuffs are available. But metering is a wide, wide west. It's like every company trying to do their own metering solution. The units don't match, and that just leads into inaccurate invoicing, both for your customers and inaccurate chargeback use cases. So originally with András, we wanted to make metering the new kind of standard, the new cloud-native way to metering. And that's when OpenMeter, that's where the name actually comes, that this is the standard for metering. We launched OpenMeter as an open source project. That was early 2023, January or February or something like that. And 2022 December, this small, that time small, now not that small, OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and it kind of all part of the story now, how that kind of take off and change the entire universe we are living in. And suddenly metering become fundamental. Every foundational models, every agentic, every LLM application is priced based on tokens. So that became very clear for András and me and the team that metering with billing is kind of going to be the main use case here. And then we went down that road, and that's kind of how we launched our entitlement features to help companies to govern costs, and then eventually billing to help companies to monetize that. So kind of that's the background story of OpenMeter. So it's funny to look back now and those times when we didn't know if we are building a company or a feature or a product, and things wasn't as glamorous as today looks on these nice prints.
Perfect. So thank you, Peter. And as we mentioned in things like the press release and blog posts, number one, the OpenMeter being open source was really important to us at Kong. Like, we were founded in open source, we believe in that. And so we're continuing to invest in the open source project behind OpenMeter, but we're bringing all of that same technology, the same power, and we're delivering it as a new product on top of Konnect. So you get all the benefits of working with Kong, the core capabilities, and obviously integrations there. So really excited about that. And so a way to think about this, you've seen this today. This is the variations of this 3-layer cake, right? At the bottom, we have Kong's runtimes, we have the core Konnect platform in the middle, and we have the applications that build on top. That AI monetization becomes OpenMeter within Konnect. And so we announced yesterday, Konnect Meter and Billing is coming. New capability will be going to GA. Beta next month in November, so certainly we'll talk more about how to sort of talk to us and get early access to that, and then we're looking at GAing towards the end of the year. And the way to think about this is the unified API and metering is going to be built in as a core capability in Konnect. So you can stream those events into Konnect from any system, and we have some of the OpenMeter customers are doing things like counting GPU seconds of being used inside of their data center, and that's a use case to then sell to their customers. And then obviously API and AI monetization, being able to understand the amount of tokens being used through your Kong gateways. Peter will walk through in much more detail the flexible pricing plans, obviously managed feature access. This is the entitlements capability. I think the last thing that I'll sort of highlight, and I'm going to get out of the way because Peter's got the much more interesting stuff in terms of the live demo, is the developer portal integration that's going to be coming early next year. When we think about our developer portal, and for those of you who watched the keynote this morning, obviously them showcasing that experience this morning, the goal here is how do we help our customers drive consumption of your APIs? You don't build APIs for the sake of it. Like, you are building an API to share data, to enable some new behavior for whether it's an internal team or end customers. You want those to be consumed. And so the way we think about our developer portal and the investments we're making there is how do we drive that time to that time to first API call for a consumer down to just a few seconds? How can we make someone learn what your technology or features or APIs have, or your organization, what does it do and why is it valuable? How do I get access and understand how I might use the API, and how do we actually be able to subscribe and start using it? And so this is where that OpenMeter and developer portal integration will come into play early next year, which is thinking about how do you help a customer subscribe to a particular plan, whether that's your free tier, your pro tier, and talk to a sales rep for enterprise, or for internal use cases. Maybe you have gold, silver, bronze, that's sort of more traditional internal showback. So we'll be able to support those types of use cases much more natively next year. And with that, Peter, take it away.
Jump into the demo. The first 1 minute of the demo will be familiar for folks who was on the keynote yesterday. Some of you were kind enough to come to me that the keynote yesterday was not live, it was a demo recorded. So maybe someone told me the cursor was moving too smoothly. So maybe we are going to do some random things to really believe me, or maybe something going to fail, and then you will really believe this is a demo. So let's jump in. We are going to use the usual suspect of the Kong demos, the Kong airline, that in this case, let's imagine we're going to start to sell flight data. So just for a repeat of yesterday, for this demo, we have a serverless AI gateway running. We are generating some traffic against that with a couple of routes that we would like to monetize: the get flight, the list flight, and we have this AI route that has a very random generated name. In the background, this actually uses AI gateway. I can show that super quickly now that here we have a slightly bit more time. We can go into these interesting parts. So that endpoint actually in the background talking to OpenAI, and every time when that LLM endpoint is called, we have an authentication layer, and that request going out to OpenAI going to be returned. And the AI gateway, obviously there will be some token consumed both on the input and output side that can become expensive. So let's monetize that. So I'm switching into the new metering and billing product. And you can see at the bottom we have the 2 switches. That's how easy it is to enable the Kong API and AI gateway traffic to bring in. So if I open one of these, then basically with every kind of dimension that you're already familiar in the Kong system, you are able to discover your data, and you can also monetize based on those dimensions. We will play with that in a second, just to have an idea of how metering works. So basically, you can discover the data, and it's important to mention that usage metering is almost always event-based. This is very different to how you are thinking about the typical observability. Oops. Let me open one of these. So even when a Kong traffic comes in, there will be an event in the background. And this is important because metering has to be a lot more accurate than observability time series data. We also deduplicate. So if your microservice architecture accidentally sends an event twice, then that's going to be deduplicated. And this is a long-time financial history. So if your customer ever comes to you, then in the future that, hey, why was I charged for a specific unit? You have a proof, an audit trail, why that charge happened. And now that we are familiar with the event-based metering, I also want to show you that you can bring in your own data, not just the Kong AI and API gateway. So we have a generic metering as well, where basically what you see on the right side top is the CloudEvents format from the Cloud Native Foundation. And then in the data payload, you can put arbitrary properties to meter. Just to show you super quickly, like let's imagine you want to bring in AI usage from another solution, then you can say for every event that prompt, you can filter for it, and then we want to start to use the sum aggregation. We have multiple aggregations here, and then you can define the dimensions, like maybe model. So you can always bring in external data. We actually have agents even for NVIDIA GPU, for Kubernetes workload. So like really the limit is the sky, anything that can be counted, that can be metered. So lots of companies are very creative these days with pricing. Let's jump into the product catalog. So this is the one great thing about the Konnect metering and billing, that the usage data is decoupled from the pricing. This is something that developers love because no developer likes to work with billing. So at this point, the developer job is done, basically. You have the data in the system, and you can go to your product manager, and they can use the UI to price the product. And we are even going to change price, and you will see how great that you don't have to go back to your engineer. You can do the price change on your own. So here, basically, you define essentially the products and features you are going to price. And just to super quickly show you here, so if we are picking a specific traffic, then you can say, oh, I only want to monetize a subset of that. So maybe in this case, I am only interested in certain routes, but not all of them. Then you can pick those routes. You can even start to filter for like status code. So you can say, I only want status codes that lower than a specific number. So like you don't want to charge for like, I have to press the button. But see, it's live demo. So basically for status codes that lower, so that way you can define your products. And you can even define products that are not usage-based. Let me pull up, this is one of the popular database provider pricing, just to really see how crazy pricing goes these days. So later stage startups, obviously pricing, we are all familiar with that one number. But later stage startups, to control cost, they have so many different checkboxes, so many different usage limits, overages, and the page just goes and just goes and just goes. So like, if your product manager comes to you to implement this, that's going to take a very long time. So because of that, in the Kong metering and billing, what we designed, that you can actually define all those checkboxes. So we have a checkbox here, for example, that the customer has access to premium AI model, and then you can even add the prices for every single feature. And right now, here I have a pro plan, which charges for everything based on unit, and I have a free plan that has usage limits. But let's do something more interesting. Let's launch a new pricing, just to really prove how easy it is to launch a new pricing. So we're a major airline, and we don't have an enterprise plan. I think we should have one. So let's create an enterprise plan. So basically, you define the packaging. I'm going to define a monthly cadence. You could pick annual. Lots of the enterprise plans are annual. First of all, let's fill out the rate cards. So let's say we are going to price this request. I'm going to pick a tiered price. So like we can say that basically, as the customer uses more, we are going to charge them less. Just to do something more interesting, the first 100 requests going to be relatively expensive, and after that, the price going to go down. And I could add more tiers. And then if you want, you can even define a limit for it. So let's say for some reason, this customer, there was in the contract that this is only maximum 1 million they can ever use. And let's add that rate card. Let's add another one of the checkbox kind of stuff that the premium AI model, we are not going to charge anything extra in the enterprise, but we are going to tell that this is available, or I can even define what of those premium models are. And then on a per customer level, so I could say like, this is the specific models that the customer has access, and there's information going to tickle for that specific customer. So you can have in different plans, different kind of entitlements. This is all those checkboxes I have showed you in that very long pricing. So we could start to add more rate cards, but I'm going to publish it. And when I publish it, something very interesting happens. You can see we have a version 1. But if I would want to change the price later, I can just create a new version. And when I'm comfortable with it, I can publish it again. So it almost works like when developers write code. You can commit it. Your peers can review it. No pricing mistake. And let's add that price to one of the customers. Let's say that Skylytics is ready to upgrade. They are on the Pro plan today, so they have the unit-based prices for those. But I'm going to come here. I'm going to change to Enterprise. This is the plan we just made right now. I'm going to say immediately. So the customer now, the system provisioned both the check mark, and you can see it's already started to calculate. So because we are receiving traffic, we don't have any more 1 million available because we already used 26 of that. So when that number would be reached, there would be a flip that would change into false, and we have a webhook system to let you know. So let's see the invoice. Because it's a fully real-time system, there's also an invoice getting calculated in the meantime. And when that invoice is ready for collection, then we have integration with payment providers, like, for example, Stripe, where you can charge automatically for credit cards. Or you can even integrate your internal ERP. We have a custom invoicing that's going to send out a webhook to your system, and then you can control the invoice status through the API. Even better, these applications, you can install multiple. So if you have a Stripe account in Europe and in Asia, you can have multiple Stripe accounts in OpenMeter, and on a per customer level, you can control if you want to invoice this customer with the ERP or with another application. So that makes super flexible to kind of choose how you want to invoice your customer. And the final thing I want to show is I mentioned that those limits, when they reach the usage limits, you can define notifications with different thresholds. So for example, maybe at 75%, you just want to send a nice email to the customer that, hey, just to know you're running out of your limit, please consider upgrading. And maybe 100% you want to go a little bit more aggressive, either kind of like blocking a customer if it's a really expensive AI, or maybe just let your sales team to know to kind of work with the customer. But with notifications, you can really easily handle those use cases. And in the future, we are going to do a lot more integration with the Kong ecosystem. So the gateway will be able to block the traffic if you want, even define rate limits part of the pricing. Lots of good stuff is coming, and that portal integrations to provide entire upgrade and downgrade flows, pricing selectors, usage history. That's all going to be able in the developer portal to make it super easy to launch a new product and pricing. That's what I wanted to show us.
I have a quick question for you, though. You mentioned, I mean, I love the UX, right? So, like, I mean, I'm still technical, but non-technical audiences can obviously interact with and build plans and manage customers. So, like, customer success representatives, or maybe an AE or your deal desk who's actually doing the paperwork could actually come in here and do that. But they don't have to, right? Like, this this can be driven through automation?
Yeah, we have an SDK, and we will have a Terraform provider, just like other Kong products. And I have seen a very nice MCP demo today. Maybe if you enable the MCP on the UI, then the customer account service person could just say things like, hey, upgrade this customer to enterprise.
I also think take a screenshot of your current pricing page and ask, hey, can you just pre-build this?
Yeah, that's something that I know Andres already has a demo in-house for that. So I think lots of exciting stuff with MCPs will be possible.
Perfect.
And developers don't need to spend time in billing anymore, which probably they will be happy.
Perfect. Well, that's what we have to show for you today. But thank you for your time, and we'll be around for questions.